Oregon Ducks, Rose Bowl champions 2020. AJ Jacobson with Duck Sports Authority and Rivals.com. I'm Warren Williamson with Oregon Duck Football News. AJ, when we talked earlier this afternoon from down on the field, we talked about turnovers. Yeah. And you actually said that would be a key to this game, and boy was it, 4 turnovers, which really changed his football game.
Well, let's put it this way. The Ducks won by 1 point, and they took away 4 times and only gave it up once. So they were +3 in the turnover department. Had they not been +3, they would have lost the game. So talk about a key. You can't get more key than that. But, almost every football game, turnover is going to be a big deal. Sure. In this one, it was the difference between winning and losing. So the ball security that we talked about, that the Ducks, the technique they do to protect the ball, that interception was just a bad toss. What are you going to do? So, turnovers were key, and the Ducks wouldn't be winners had they not succeeded in that category.
I talked to Jonathan Taylor after the game about his fumble. He's a relatively secure football player and a great running back, and he dropped it on the turf one time, and it proved costly, and it was surprising. And I asked him about that, and he said the Ducks were hard-hitting tonight. They play a very tough and very physical defense, and that's good to hear when you hear it from the opposing player.
Yeah, and you know what? He's a very nice young man. I was listening to his response to your question, and a lot of respect to him because what he said was right. Yes, the Ducks did poke at the ball. They did hit hard, but at the same time, had he done his technique properly, he would have held on to the ball. He knows that, and that's true with everybody, but I think what's happening is the Ducks and the way they focus on turnovers and protecting the ball and the way they put so much time into it in practice is paying off in the biggest of games like today.
Thomas Graham gets the pick, a lone pick of the football game. That's 20 on the season for this Oregon football team. He was in the right place at the right time. I think the Oregon secondary did a pretty good job tonight against Cone.
They did a very, very good job. And Wisconsin's not a wonderful passing team. They did give up a little space in some of their zone defenses, but there's a reason that the defensive MVP was the defensive back, Brady Breeze. The defensive backs played quite well today. Brady Breeze was fantastic today, but really this is to be expected because we watched him improve all year long to become one of the better safeties in the league.
Talking about Brady Breeze, the Ducks were in the right place at the right time, specifically Breeze on the Wisconsin punt. The punter dropped the football and Breeze was right there to pick it up and run for a touchdown. And it was so great to hear him talk about that touchdown run because he referenced the defense back against Florida State when Jameis Winston dropped the football. And he said he was a little kid in the stadium and he watched that play. And how great for him to score a touchdown.
Like you said, it's being at the right place in the right time. But I'll tell you what, as a former defender, there is no greater pleasure in the world than getting a touchdown. I never had one in my non-illustrious career, but I will say this, when you get one, you never forget it, and your heart and mind glows for days about it. So I'm sure Brady Breeze is quite happy right now, and has every reason to be because he played one heck of a football game.
Let's move over to the offense. I think if I were to ask you at the beginning of the game, would Justin Herbert score 3 rushing touchdowns to win the game, you may have probably said no. And not be his arm to win the game. He did a tremendous job today, especially on that last 30-yard run.
Yeah, I asked Coach Cristobal about that. I said, Coach, would he have been as effective as a runner if you would let him run those first 11 games like you did those last 2 against the Pac-12 championship and then this game? He said, no, it's just what he does. But in fact, I don't think he would have been as effective because teams don't have to game plan for him running, and they paid the price for it today. Utah paid the price for the Pac-12 game. They didn't necessarily expect him to run as much as he did, but he's highly effective doing it. One of the reasons they don't let him run is to protect his legs during the season. He may not be standing and being a runner had they let him run all year. So the fact they kind of held him back and let him run these last 2 games, I thought was a huge, smart play by the coaches. I know fans wanted him to run more during the season, but the coaches have reasons for not doing that, and I think the results were on the field today. The results were on the field against Utah, but Justin does a great job. He's a big, strong, powerful runner, strong legs. He doesn't mind doing a stiff arm. I really like seeing that out of him. I saw some pictures from our photographer, Tom Corno, of Justin throwing some stiff arms, and they look almost like a running back, almost. So great job by Justin with his feet, and we knew he could do it, but I would have called you a big, huge fat liar if you would have told me before the game he was going to run for 3 touchdowns.
Ducks didn't have a great night running the football. Of course, that's a very stout defensive line that Wisconsin has. I think it was under 50 yards, I think, for the night.
Yeah, they had 66 yards
yeah.
rushing, but it was on 30 rushes.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 2.2 yards rush.
Right.
That's not a large number, very, very small number. Yeah, and part of it was obstinance in that Wisconsin was packing up the box pretty good, yet the Ducks were still heading on into it. They need to establish the run. I know Cristobal, that's part of his personality. That's what Arroyo's, portraying out in the field. But they were pretty stubborn about that, and it almost was costly just because when you're averaging 2.2 yards per carry, that's not usually going to get it done, and it wouldn't have got it done had they not taken the ball away on defense so many times.
A couple of housekeeping issues. Jalen Redd did not dress, was not here for the game. They cited personal issues. We don't know what that is. And Micah Pittman played, and he came up with a couple key catches.
Absolutely. So, it all bounces out. We saw Jalen Redd earlier in the week. In fact, he was answering questions when the offense was having their day the other day. So he kind of disappeared on us. I'm not sure what the story is. Not even going to bother speculating because it really doesn't matter. But yeah, absolutely. Next man up did a good job, just like you said.
Two final questions. Let's talk about these seniors and what it means for them to leave this program, especially with a win.
Well, the reason it's so remarkable is because these seniors started out in misery. They were 4-8, and all of a sudden here they are winning the Rose Bowl, and it's been a gradual progression, better and better every year, and now they're like the talk of the town, up and down the West Coast. Everyone knows Oregon football is the best team on the West Coast at this point. So to get where they are today from where they were, they're the same guys.
Sure.
But they've gotten better and better, and it's just a testament to how hard they worked. And then the coaching staff is pretty solid right now.
We talked about this earlier. Now heading into spring ball, this is a great way to go into spring ball. Where does this set the Ducks up for next year?
Well, they're not that far different than they were, although I think we talked about this earlier. This is going to help recruiting.
Sure.
There was a lot of high-level recruits watching this game today, and I expect they were extremely impressed by what they saw. So Ducks may actually pick up a guy or two this cycle, but in the future they definitely will because of wins like this. So they're set up well that way, but nonetheless, the keys for going forward are going to be replacing Justin Herbert. They're going to be replacing that offensive line where four of the starters are going to graduate. Yep. So there are some holes to fill, but the things that they know are coming back, and we're going to see it this spring ball, will be a great defense that is going to be reinforced with an outstanding recruiting class yet again, and then the question marks will be on the offensive side of the ball, but they have some dynamic playmakers and some very great young talent on the offensive line. We just have to see how they come together.
So another great game, and the granddaddy of them all, it certainly didn't disappoint. Oregon, 28-27 Rose Bowl champions. That sounds good, heading back to Eugene. For Oregon Duck Football News, I'm Warren Williamson, AJ Jacobson, all season long, Duck Sports Authority and Rivals.com, and we will talk to you again.